The SL1 run I mentioned in the last video is finally here, and boy oh boy was this the hardest challenge run I have done yet. I died many times, and bosses I thought were easy were surprisingly challenging, while bosses I thought would be hard weren't too bad actually. And the one thing I can say for certain though is God bless the broadsword. I tried using the Dragon Slayer's Great Axe later on in the run because I heard it was pretty good for SL1 runs, and while it's certainly not a bad weapon, there will never be a better weapon for SL1 runs than the broadsword. It is the holy savior of this run, and what makes all things possible. Another great thing about this run is that it's way easier to not make a mistake like in my prior runs with very specific rules per area. This run has only one rule, two if you want to be pedantic, but start at level 1 and don't level beyond that. Pretty simple, but those stats we won't be getting will be dearly missed. Now, rather than bore you with all the things we can get throughout the run that can be helpful, thank you, Father Lloyd, we will talk about the equipment we use as we get to it. So, without further ado, let's begin. Now, we start out deprived, obviously, as this is an SL1 run. And believe it or not, Gundyr is literally no threat at all. While he is pretty hard compared to other tutorial bosses in the Soulsborne series, he is still just a tutorial boss, and we treat him like what he is. Trash. But now for the fun part. It's time to obtain our savior of the run, the broadsword. We also get the best gem for the broadsword, the raw gem, because we get absolutely zero stat investment besides rings that we can only get at the end of the game, and those only boost our stats by about 5 points. More on those later. Now, just like last time, we are attempting Vort pretty much naked, but unlike last time, I actually die on my first attempt, which was not a good sign for the rest of this run. However, it does not take more than one death to kill Vort. I'm embarrassed it even took one death, but we take out Vort pretty easy peasy. And now we hit the point where we finally get to use armor, and oh my goodness, does it feel nice not having to worry about what I can and cannot use for gear. Now, while I will be limited on what I can wear due to my stats, I don't need to worry about that for a while since I'm only going to be getting lighter armor for a good bit. Not that I really need armor in the first place for great wood. I chop the big bad tree down, fall down a hole, chop him up some more, and prove to the world that I am, in fact, the very best lumberjack this world has ever seen. Continuing my easy streak of bosses is the Crystal Sage, and unlike my last challenge run where I was worried about getting one-shot by her, I don't need to worry about that now that I have armor. I can slowly just chop away at her until she poofs away to the great magic graveyard in the sky. It's at around this point I get to pick up a ring that will be temporarily useful for the early game, the Estus Ring. The Estus Ring allows our Estus Flask to heal us more than its usual amount. Now when I say the Estus Ring is temporarily useful, what I mean is that when we get more undead bone shards, our Estus will naturally heal us to full, regardless of where our health is at, since we can't level our health up. But at this early point in the game where we don't have a lot of undead bone shards yet, it's somewhat helpful. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be asking why I didn't pick up the Chloranthy or Flynn's ring, and the short answer was I didn't think it was necessary to go out of my way to get it. Really, the only reason I picked up the Estus ring was because I wanted the Estus shard in the rafters, and I used the covetous silver serpent ring so I could buy whatever armor I wanted from the shop. Was any of this necessary? Absolutely not. But I was surprised by how useful the Estus ring was early game, especially in conjunction with the Lloyd's sword and shield ring we'll get and discuss later on. Now, funnily enough, the boss I died to the most in the first stream wasn't even a boss, it was a side boss, the demon atop Farron Swamp. I kept getting grabbed because I am so trash and I died 5 times to this guy. Really, he is not difficult at all, but I am so greedy I would keep wailing on this guy and get grabbed rather than conserving my stamina. And if any of you have ever done an SL1 run, you'll know that positioning and stamina management are so incredibly important in this run, and I definitely learned that lesson the hard way. But with this big guy finally beaten, I get to reap my rewards from his soul, and I obtain Havel's ring, which will allow me to have a slightly larger equip load. Next up, I decided I wanted to head to the cathedral so I can pick up the 2 most important rings of this run, the Lloyd's shield and Lloyd's sword ring. The sword gives you more attack when at full health, and the shield gives you more defense while at full health. Both of these rings are so crucial for an SL1 run. The shield is the most important because it helps prevent you from dying to one-shots in a good amount of cases, and the sword ring just helps boost your DPS, which is still appreciated. Used in conjunction early game with the Estus ring, it was pretty easy to always keep my health topped off to get the bonuses. Moving on to the boss of the area, or should I say bosses of the area, I once again get to show off my absolute skill in managing to die to the deacons once before killing them in my second attempt. What can I say? I am nothing if not inconsistent with my skills. Either way, easy boss is easy, and we take out the Cathedral of Weaklings and move on to our next destination, the Ariandel DLC. Now, you might be wondering why I'm here so early, and the answer is rather simple. I want large Titanite shards. Now, why do I want large Titanite shards? Well, that's because that's the only way I can get stronger for this challenge run. For a normal run, you can progress through the game normally, and scale your strength accordingly. But for an SL1 run, you really can only do so much. Besides helpful rings, the main thing you'll need is weapon upgrades. And seeing how I only have a +4 raw broadsword right now, I need to get large Titanite shards. The best place to get large Titanite shards that we currently have available to us is the DLC. That's why we're here. Now, I know I could grind the enemies for large Titanite shards, but I prefer the more simple method of running around, unlocking the areas and bonfires for future bosses, and picking up items as I do so. Doing this, I managed to get enough materials for a +5 raw broadsword, and also picked up a Titanite slab for later. While I could grind out for an additional +1 on my broadsword, I decided it's unnecessary. There's another place we can get large Titanite shards from pretty easily, but it's not open to us yet. It's Lothric Castle and the Consumed King's Garden area beyond the Dancer. And it's not just the remaining large Titanite shards we need either. No, no, no. The real resource we need is the Titanite chunks hidden beyond her. With those, we can reach our full potential and get a +10 raw broadsword fairly early on, making the rest of the bosses we face in the mid-game a cakewalk. There's only one issue. The Dancer. But the solution is rather simple. I just have to get good. And so, over 17 attempts to beat the Dancer, I got good. While compared to last challenge run, this may seem like a lot of attempts, for this challenge run, it was really just the first hurdle I was facing. We'll face a lot bigger hurdles later. This fight really wasn't too bad. The first phase is pretty simple. She's very generous with letting you wail on her in the first phase and in her transition to the second phase. While in the second phase itself, though, you have to be a lot more careful. Attacking after her big spin to win attack is always a good opening for damage, and I found that the best approach for dealing with the Dancer in the second phase was to stay close until she's about to do her big spin to win attack, at which point I run away and then capitalize when she's done spinning by attacking. This is the first big fight where managing stamina is crucial for dodging and attacking, which will become more and more prevalent as we face more difficult bosses later on. Good thing Dragon Slayer armor isn't one of those though, right? Funnily enough, I beat him first try. I was kind of surprised just how easy he was, honestly. Now, sure, did I have a +10 weapon? Maybe. I might have picked up all the remaining Titanite shards I needed on the way up to him, but still, beating him first try level 1 felt pretty dang good. You know what feels better than beating a boss first try, though? Beating a boss hitless. Osiris only took about 4 attempts, and like I always say, he really is not that hard of a boss. Just stick to his butt and wail on him, and he falls pretty easily. Not getting hit even once, though, I mean, I gotta say, I was pretty proud of that one. I even posted a short of it on my channel, if you guys want to see the whole fight. Now, after all the joyful moments of beating a boss first attempt and beating a boss hitless, it's time for us to get put in our place and humbled. Champion Gundyr was our first massive wall. If Dancer was our first hurdle, Gundyr was the first wall that truly stood in our way. Now, really, we don't need to beat Gundyr right now. We could save him for later, but his soul allows us to get one of the best rings for our build, the Prisoner's Chain, boosting our endurance, vigor, and vitality by 5 each in exchange for taking slightly more damage. This is worth about 15 stats, which is huge for our survivability, and is why we're trying to beat the champ here and now. Do you want to guess how many attempts this took? I'll give you a hint. It was more attempts than it took me to beat Friede in my last challenge run. I'll give you another hint. It was literally 1.5 times as many attempts as I had for Friede in my last challenge run. It took me about 39 attempts before I finally beat the champ. It was so incredibly demoralizing dying constantly to Gundyr. My first couple attempts I spent trying to get better at parrying Gundyr, and at a certain point I was getting fairly consistent. The issue was that I was not staying consistent as my attempts kept going up and up. I would be fairly accurate, but especially in the second phase, it was much harder for me to parry him, let alone get a parry opportunity. So I decided rather than try to parry the second phase, I'll just wail on him normally, and that ended up working in my winning attempt, so that was a good idea, honestly. If I had to say the most difficult or annoying part of Gundyr's fight, though, I would say it's the move right here. It is so fast and can come out of seemingly nowhere, and if it connects, it will kill me, because it is a quick 1-2 that you can't roll out of once hit, and will break your Lloyd shield and finish you off in the second hit. This one move ruined so many attempts, even a pretty flawless attempt I had where he used it on me immediately after getting up from being parried, which was absolutely filthy. But, nonetheless, I conquered and overcame the champ, putting him in his place and reminding him who the real champ is. Oh yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The first wall has been destroyed, and we also had our first little sped-up music section of the video. More to come, don't worry, there's plenty of walls and hurdles left that we have yet to conquer. But with Gundyr now out of the way, it's time for us to take on the middle half of the game, and I'll be honest, with my damage output from a +10 weapon, this was an absolute cakewalk where I steamrolled absolutely everything in my path. Abyss Watchers, literally just look at how much damage I do to them. They stood no chance. Wolnir? Okay, well, Mr. Skelly Jerk over here did manage to kill me once with his mist because I'm bad, but that's it, you know. I killed him pretty quickly after that. Okay, don't bring back the Todithan is trash allegations, okay? We redeemed ourselves. Old Demon King? Yeah, more like old decrepit demon who barely knows where he is. I was even able to survive his big boom attack at the end that always has me on edge, all thanks to the Lloyd shield ring. Honestly, this guy, just like the rest, stood no chance. Pontiff? You think Pontiff is going to be a challenge? Look at my damage! This man stands no chance against my +10 broadsword of death. As for Aldrich, I'm not gonna lie, this kill felt so good, not having to use a great bow, and getting to use a weapon that actually dealt good damage. Yeah, this was a cathartic release after the pain from my last challenge run. Yeah, this guy was cooked as soon as I stepped foot in this arena, and he knew it. Yorm? Okay, please don't call me trash. I swear I'm not that bad, but okay, I might have died on my first attempt to Yorm, because I might be an idiot. Yeah, I know first Wolnir, now Yorm. I swear to God, this challenge run is just me getting killed by easy bosses more than anything else. Don't worry though, I redeemed myself in my second attempt, and proved that while I might not be consistent, I am still at the very least above average at Soulsborne games. And now is the point in the run where I finally switch over to the Dragon Slayer's Axe. To obtain this weapon, you need to first do Cirrus's invasion on the bridge leading to Irithyll and kill Kraton in Cirrus's world. After this, around where you can pick up an undead bone shard in Irithyll, as long as you're embered up, you can get invaded by Kraton. And once you kill him, he drops his weapon, the Dragon Slayer's Axe. Now, of course we infuse the weapon with a raw gem and get it to +10, and in order to use this weapon, we'll need to obtain more dex and strength, which we can get through obtaining the Hunter's Ring and Knight's Ring. The Knight's Ring is found near the Sunlight Altar in Lothrop Castle, and the Hunter's Ring is found at the top of the Grand Archives, right around where the 3 fat angels that drop a Titanite slab are located. With both rings obtained, I can now use the Dragon Slayer's Axe, and it's with this axe I finally managed to kill the Twin Princes. Funnily enough, this boss actually took about 10 attempts, and it was only when I switched to use the axe that I managed to kill the Twin Princes on my first attempt with the axe. Now, I know I said the broadsword is the GOAT, and I stick by that 100%. However, when a boss is weak to lightning, the Dragon Slayer axe with its inherent lightning damage is pretty good. I know I could use resins with the broadsword, but I never really worried about doing this until much later on at the end of the run, because for most of those bosses, my mindset was always that my damage was never an issue, it was that I needed to get better at dodging and finding safe attack windows, which I would argue made for more fun to watch and more skillful gameplay. Now, technically, I actually killed the Ancient Wyvern in between when I was attempting Twin Prince fights, because I needed the ashes that are past him in order to buy Titanite chunks to help fasten the process of upgrading my axe to plus 10. But like always, this is quite literally the easiest boss in the game, and I kill him first attempt. Moving onwards to a more difficult and more exciting boss fight, we have TNK. Now, he really shouldn't be that big of an issue for us to kill with our Dragon Slayer's axe, but the issue is that he actually has an attack that one-shots us. His charge-up lightning attack that descends from the sky to hit us actually one-shots us. Now, normally I never bother to dodge this and just take the time to wail on him like I do here in this clip, but now I needed to learn how to dodge this move. So the next time he uses it, I managed to dodge, thinking I'm home free, but then he does it again? Immediately after the first one, you know, kind of like a douche, and I die. So at this point, I'm like, this is stupid. I'm pretty good at this entire fight except for dodging this one move. But whatever, I'll try changing my armor to have more lightning resist and see if that helps me tank his attack. And when I get to him doing the attack, you know what happens? I dodge, because I'm not trash, and now we'll never know whether me changing my armor would have actually helped me tank his attack or not, but oh well, who cares? I killed TNK in a solid 9 attempts. Now, I could either do the DLC or attempt Cinder, and unlike last challenge run, I decided to do Cinder right away. Now, I don't know whether this was a smart idea or a dumb idea, but I found out the hard way that Cinder is actually pretty difficult to beat SL1. In this run, there were 3 walls and 3 hurdles. Dancer was the first hurdle, and Champion Gundyr was the first wall. We have now arrived at our second wall. Soul of Cinder took me even more attempts than Gundyr. He took 45 attempts. Now I'm going to give you a little spoiler here, but the last wall took even more attempts, so these walls only get bigger and bigger as we go. But back to Cinder. He is, just like Gundyr, a very fast and aggressive attacker. Luckily for me though, his first phase is way harder than his second phase. But I didn't know that until I got to his second phase for the first time. So up until that point, I was very demoralized, thinking, wow, I can't even get to his second phase, I am so bad. And in case you were wondering about his different forms, my thoughts on each of his forms evolved as I had more and more attempts against the boss. My original thoughts were, oh my god, I hate the spear guy because I sucked at dodging his attacks. Scimitar guy, he rarely used, so I was indifferent towards. Sword form was uber aggressive, but I had the most experience with him, so he wasn't too bad. And mage form I loved because I could wail on him. After actually having attempts with my SL1 build though, I realized these opinions were mostly wrong. Sword guy is, of course, still fine to fight because of how much experience I had with always fighting him as soon as I enter the fog wall and dodging his attacks, although he would still get me every now and then with his delayed attacks. Spear guy was actually one of my favorite forms to fight because you could just strafe his attacks and get a pretty good amount of damage off. Scimitar, I really didn't get to fight that much still. He posed a bit of a threat with some of his combo attacks, but for the most part wasn't awful. The real hellish form of this fight was the Mage, and it was all because of one attack, his homing soul mass. Having those 5 homing soul masses above him was a constant threat, because if I got hit even once, it would break my Lloyd's shield and sword ring, and I could get killed by about any attack if I didn't top off with an Estus right away. But, like all fights, after taking my time and getting good, I finally put the Soul of Cinder in his place, leaving him like ashes flying in my wake. And with this, our second wall has come crumbling down, and we have but one wall left and 2 hurdles left to overcome before the SL1 run is ours. And now back we go to the Ariandel DLC, and it's time for the least cool but definitely easier of the 2 fights, Champion's Grave Tender. And funnily enough, out of all 3 of my challenge runs I have done so far, my SL1 run is the run where I kill this guy first attempt. It is so funny to me how that worked out, but oh well. Now this definitely wasn't a pretty fight, I got hit quite a lot, but I finished both of the Dastardly duo off and showed them who the real champion was. And now we have made it to our final wall. Who could have ever guessed the final wall would be Friede? Hopefully everyone. In many ways, you could see this being the final wall as a good thing. That means after Friede, there's only 2 hurdles remaining before the finish. But that's only after overcoming this wall. How many attempts did she take this time? 53. She took me about 2 hours worth of attempts to beat. My 6th stream of this run was literally only Friede attempts. That was the whole stream. This was a painful endeavor, and by this point I was very ready for the run to be over, but those are only the words of a loser who loses. Once I overcame this wall, you'll hear the joy of a man who has overcome adversity despite it all. Now getting into the fight itself, backstabs were very helpful in the first and third phase, but not essential. I would also bait her into attacking by moving forward, then backing slightly out of her range to get a quick 2 hits in the first phase. Whenever she would go invisible, you would need to be close enough to her to see where she's going and stay locked on in order to sneak around her and get a free backstab in. Sometimes you could also tell from the smoke where she went, and then other times you just needed to be good at dodging if you couldn't track her. Overall, the first phase was obviously the easiest phase. Second phase was more annoying. You needed to space out the 2 bosses so you wouldn't get attacked by Friede while hitting Ariandel. You need to constantly watch out for Friede's long distance ice attacks because it can either proc Frost, breaking your Lloyd shield ring, or if it goes off fully, it will one-shot you regardless of being at full health. Ariandel also had a couple of annoying attacks that could one-shot you even at full health, so I learned later on that I needed to be more conservative with my attacks, and rather than getting as many hits off as I could, I needed to get a couple of attacks in and then run away or keep an eye on Friede the whole time, because you never know when Friede could launch her ice at you, and if you're unlucky, like I was a lot, you could get stuck in an unfavorable position between the 2 bosses. This would happen a lot when Friede would heal and I would backstab her. Ariandel would then one-shot me because I was locked into a backstab animation, which was incredibly frustrating whenever it would happen. The third phase is a lot like the first phase, but incredibly stressful because you get so close to winning. I actually died a lot at the beginning of the third phase, getting one-shot or comboed by flames, which was so annoying. And also very demotivating. So I adapted an approach where I played more conservatively at a distance, which was necessary due to the intensity Friede would attack with. I capitalized on the ice attack moves she does where I can get free backstabs if I position correctly. Got a couple lucky pot shots here and there, and after a whole 2 hours of attempts, I finally had this attempt. You have absolutely no idea how good it felt finally defeating this boss. I want you to just listen to my reaction right after this happened. I don't even have words! Yeah, as you can tell from that clip, I was very thrilled that I finally defeated Friede on my hardest challenge yet. And while I may have been absolutely miserable doing this, I felt like an absolute god-tier gamer after having finally overcome the greatest SL1 wall that this challenge has to offer. And thankfully, it's all downhill from here. Did I say downhill? Well, while technically true, I also had to hop over a hurdle right away on my descent. That's right, the Demon Prince was the second hurdle of my SL1 run. Now, on the way to the Demon Prince, I also pick up my final notable ring that I use. The Ring of Favor and Protection, +3, located atop a giant branch in the Dreg Heap. This allows me to have some more health, stamina, and a higher equip load. I use this in conjunction with the Prisoner's Chain and both Lloyd's Rings, including the Broadsword for the rest of the fights going forward. I did try using the Dragon Slayer's Axe for some of the future fights and this fight, but ultimately I found that having more survivability with the rings I get while using the Broadsword was just too hard to pass up. The Broadsword is also faster than the axe when swinging one-handed, and the Broadsword weighs 1 unit less. Overall, the Broadsword is my undeniable favorite for this run, and me finding this out while switching between the Broadsword and the axe is what caused me to take so many attempts for this boss and the next boss. But regardless of how many attempts it took, just like his old man, this Demon Prince is coming crumbling down. That's right, you thought only the walls were going to get sped up music segments for this run, but no. I believe in the art of surprise. And I also happen to think that Demon Prince is a fun and cool boss fight, so surprise. And it is at this point that we have arrived. at our final hurdle. I bet you're surprised it's not Gale. Honestly, I was too. Who would have guessed that this incredibly irrelevant boss would prove to be so annoyingly difficult? Want to know the most annoying thing about this boss? How long it takes to actually start. It takes about 2 minutes just to run back to the fight and sit through the dialogue of the giant before the boss actually spawns in. Yes, I counted. Now, there's a lot of annoying parts about this fight, but the worst is the homing soul mass that constantly spawns atop the boss, because one hit and boom, your Lloyd rings are broken and you need to top off with an Estus. The other annoyance is that the Painting Guardian will spawn back in and you need to finish him off while dodging attacks from Half-Light. Which, did I mention I hate gang fights? Because I really hate gang fights like this. At least in the context of a challenge run where I am incredibly frail and can die if I'm touched more than once without healing. But this is just a hurdle and not a wall after all, and so I inevitably get the attempt I worked hard for. Put this trash boss in his place, the dumpster. After this, I actually decided to do Gundyr next. And with how much I've been struggling with the last couple bosses, I was really hoping Gundyr would be as easy as he normally is, and thank God. He is still just as easy as a normal run. It was so nice having an easy boss after struggling for multiple attempts the last couple boss fights. One attempt is all you ever need with Gundyr. Last and certainly not least, we have Gale. And honestly, I saved him for last because I was expecting him to be incredibly difficult. But when I fought him, he was actually really easy. At this point, I had started using resin to help because I was worried the fight would be a really annoyingly hard one, but it really wasn't that bad. It only took about 4 attempts to beat him, and the first 2 attempts I was using dark resin instead of the poison resin, so I wasn't even using the right resin like an idiot. But after finding that out, that he was weak to poison, and switching to the correct items, he was an absolute cakewalk. A delicious and fun to savor cakewalk, but a cakewalk nonetheless. He is the absolute pinnacle of Dark Souls, Gale. The best boss fight.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical.
And that'll just about do it for this challenge run. I really appreciate you guys who stuck around to watch the whole video, and just like last time, I'll go ahead and post the stats I had for this run. Actually getting to include rings this time too, since I really didn't use rings last challenge run at all. Also, just a reminder, if you guys ever want to watch my runs live, I stream at twitch.tv/Todithan, and if you ever want to check out my VODs, they are all uploaded on my VODs channel, TodithanVODs. If you could, let me know if you liked the video by leaving a like, and let me know if you have any future challenge runs you want to see me do. I'm planning on doing a couple more for Dark Souls 3 before moving on to the other games in the series, but don't worry, I do plan on doing runs for all the games, so look forward to those coming in the future. Like always, I appreciate all of you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.